Charean, you were at Cowboys training camp when they started, and Ezekiel Elliott didn't show up. My theory is they were surprised that Elliott didn't show up, and totally unexpected that he did a very good job of making them think he was going to be there until he wasn't.
Yeah, Stephen Jones said he was informed by Ezekiel Elliott's agent before training camp started that he wasn't going to show up, but he wouldn't say at what point he was informed. So I think you're exactly right. I think it took him a little bit by surprise that he didn't show up to training camp on time. And, of course, is still not there, is training down in Cabo, Mexico. And, you know, one point that keeps getting looked at a lot is Jerry Jones saying you don't need a rushing champion to win a Super Bowl. That's true. We've seen it many, many times in Super Bowls. But I'll say this, if the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to have Ezekiel Elliott, period, end of story.
Yeah, and when that comment came out last week, I mean, that was the point where it felt like the Cowboys initially were getting their bearings after the stun and the surprise that Elliott did show up. So then they're trying to push back. Hey, if he's going to push us, we're going to push back. So how can we push back? Well, we can say we don't need to have the rushing champion. Well, most teams that win the Super Bowl have balance on offense. They can have a guy who's capable of being the rushing champion, but they don't need to pound him into the ground because they have a passing game that complements the running game, and you have the kind of diversity necessary on your offense to be a championship team. So I think the broader observation is it's pretty damn hard to win the Super Bowl if you're running the ball so much that one player ends up leading the league in rushing. I think that's the truth there. The reality is, like you said, they need Ezekiel Elliott, and he did, I think, a masterful job of making them think he was content to wait. He was there for all of the offseason program, all of the mandatory minicamp. There was never a word from him. He had an issue with waiting in line behind Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper until he did have an issue and skipped out on training camp. And here we are 2 weeks in. He's still not there. And I don't know where this ends, right? We know what he wants. He wants $15 million a year. We know the Cowboys now want to go under what Todd Gurley got from the Rams last year and use the Le'Veon Bell contract as the starting point for talks. I don't know how they bridge this gap. I don't know when they bridge this gap, Charean. With Emmitt Smith, it lasted into the regular season by 2 weeks. I have a feeling there's a chance this one could last into the regular season as well.
Yeah, you know, Ezekiel Elliott has put his cleats in the ground, and they're in there hard, and the Cowboys are pushing back. And at this point, it's a tug of war, and nobody's winning this tug of war right now. Ezekiel Elliott remains in Mexico, and the Cowboys remain without the running back. And they can say all they want. Hey, we're happy with our rookie running backs, Tony Pollard, Mike Weber. We're happy with Alfred Morris. We think we can win with these guys. And reality is their first couple of games, they may be able to win without them against the Giants and Washington. But the larger picture here is they know they need Ezekiel Elliott to win a Super Bowl if that's what they're going to do. And it's going to put way more pressure on Jason Garrett because he's in the final year of his contract. He knows he needs to get to at least to the NFC Championship game, and it's going to be awfully hard to do that if he doesn't have Ezekiel Elliott. And, you know, they've made the point a lot of people have made the point that this is like Emmitt Smith holdout back in the 90s, and it's a little bit like that. And he held out for the first 2 games. The Cowboys went 0-2, and, of course, he's back in camp. What people don't know is that Jerry didn't go up in his money. Emmitt just decided to come back. He wanted quarterback money, and the Cowboys made him the highest-paid running back in football. At some point, they're going to make Ezekiel Elliott the highest-paid running back in football.
Well, as of yesterday, it sounded like they're not inclined to do that, or at least that's the leverage they're trying to do to maybe get Ezekiel Elliott to take the same deal as Todd Gurley by saying, we want to pay him less than Todd Gurley. We want to pay him what Le'Veon Bell got. Maybe that's the counter to try to get Elliott to just come down to and match the Todd Gurley deal. But, you know, another point on how smart it was for Elliott to keep his cards close to the vest and act like he was okay without getting a new contract. If you behave any other way in February, March, April, May, June, you don't draw out from Stephen Jones comments like Todd Gurley's contract is the starting point. You don't draw out from Stephen Jones comments like he's the straw, if you will, that stirs our drink. They're going to be more guarded than they otherwise were if they know there's a problem with Ezekiel Elliott. And I think he did a great job of duping them into thinking there wasn't a problem. And I still think at some level they're scrambling to get on the same page, Charean, because they seem to be conflicting between Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones. Any given day, you never know what they're going to say about this. And it seems like they're all over the place as they try to settle on a strategy for dealing with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make next, is they're all over the place on this thing. One day it's, this is what he's got. We've done the math, and, he's under contract with the fifth-year option next year, and then we can use the franchise tag. And the next day it's something else. We're waiting for them to come back to the negotiating table. We're frustrated that we haven't heard back from them. So, yeah, it doesn't sound like they're on the same page, and I do think it has to do with Ezekiel Elliott really pushing the issue here. They were going to try to wait till next year to do this deal, next offseason, and he pushed the issue by holding out, and now they have to deal with him in addition to Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott. And so now they're trying to get three players and trying not to make them all market setters at their positions.
And that's the best point that either of us has made all day. The idea that the Cowboys wanted to do no contract with Ezekiel Elliott this year. They wanted to wait until next year. And then next year, who knows what happens? And there was that specter of DeMarco Murray that was looming over this the entire time, that maybe you just finish your contract. In your last year with the team, you set a franchise single-season rushing record. You lead the league in rushing. And the team says, thanks for everything. See you later. Have fun in Philadelphia. So I think Ezekiel Elliott doesn't want to hit the market. He doesn't want to wait that long. He wants to get paid while he still has full tread on the tires and is still able to generate the kind of impact that we've seen from him throughout the first 3 seasons of his career. All right, let's shift to Dak Prescott, because this is the guy we thought would be the next one to be paid by the Dallas Cowboys. I've never gotten the impression that Dak Prescott is inclined to give a hometown discount, is inclined to put any value on the fact that he is the Cowboys quarterback. He wants what he wants, regardless of who he plays for, and I feel like there's still a significant gap between the Cowboys and between Prescott.
Yeah, Stephen Jones said yesterday that they've all given him top 5 deals. Now, we don't know. It's unclear what top 5, what are we talking about, new money, average. We don't know. But Dak Prescott is not going to give a hometown discount. It does not sound like. He's made that perfectly clear in the offseason. He's talked about, hey, Tom Brady gives the hometown discount because his wife makes more than he does. I'm not inclined to do that. So he is going to have to get top money. The question is, how high do you go with him? How do you rate him in that top 5 of quarterbacks based on salary? And it's a tough question. And what's he going to land on? What figure does he have in mind? And I do think there is a significant gap where they are right now.
Yeah, and, the bigger picture point that Jerry made last week, or it was Steven actually, the idea that not just the quarterback, but all of these players need to recognize that there's value in being a member of the Cowboys. Now, I could make that argument as it relates to the quarterback, but I don't know that it trickles down to running back, receiver, defense, offensive line. And I think this is just the best thing they can come up with to justify not making these guys the highest paid players or close to it at their positions. But I just don't think this idea is gonna fly, that you have to give up some money because you're playing for the Cowboys, and there's something about that has value over and above what it would be worth to play for any other team.
Yeah, you know what DeMarcus Lawrence did in his meeting with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones? He told him, it's not my job to manage your salary cap. And Stephen Jones said, you know what, you're right. They're going to try to get their money regardless. They don't care what the Cowboys' salary cap problems are in putting a team together. They all want to be highest paid at their positions. And therein lies the problem for the Cowboys, is how do you do these 3 big money deals for skill position players and still have a cap where you can have a legitimate contending football team? It's hard to do when you have 3 players getting so much money. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going through the same thing right now, with so few players taking up so much room of the cap.
And DeMarcus Lawrence's position, that's the Peyton Manning, Darrelle Revis mindset. I need to get what I can get, and it's up to you to manage your salary cap, and that's the challenge that the Cowboys are going to have. We haven't talked about Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper's in the best position of any of these guys. First of all, he's making $13.9 million this year in the 5th year of his rookie contract. Zeke is making $3 million, and Dak is making 2, and here's Amari at 13.9. He can afford to sit back and wait, and I think he knows just by watching what's happening with Dak Prescott. And there should be coordination between the two camps, because if neither guy does a deal, you can only franchise tag one of them. The other guy is going to get to the open market, possibly with a transition tag, because if there's no new CBA, there would be a franchise tag and a transition tag available for all teams next year. But still, you're going to get the chance to go to the market and get top dollar. And I think Amari Cooper realizes that of those 3 guys, he's got the best chance of walking out the door and cashing in somewhere else.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And I talked to Amari for a long time one day, and he made the point that he's different from Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott because of that $13 million he's making this season. He said it's different at the running back position. They just don't make that much money, but I'm in good shape. He is in good shape. He's in good shape whether the Cowboys sign him now or whether the Cowboys sign him at the end of the season, or he hits the free agent market, or he gets a franchise tag. Whatever happens with Amari Cooper, he's sitting pretty. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and, it's hard to imagine all 3 of those guys sticking around. That's the challenge for Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Can they come up with a way to hold these 3 guys together and then put more around them, enough around them? And what it comes down to, if you're going to have a nucleus of highly paid players, you're going to sacrifice when it comes to depth. That's what the Patriots do with all the cap space that Tom Brady leaves behind. They have a second class, a middle class, a second tier of guys who can come in and play when needed. For a lot of these other teams, when somebody gets injured, you're rolling the dice with an undrafted free agent, Charean, and you're just hoping for the best.
Yeah, and they're already looking ahead to contracts that expire after this season. La'el Collins, their starting right tackle. They drafted Connor McGovern to replace him next year. They're not going to be able to re-sign La'el Collins. And then you look at Byron Jones, Pro Bowl cornerback last season. They're probably not going to be able to re-sign Byron Jones. They want to, but they prepared with that by drafting corners over the last couple of years. But some of these guys that they really want to keep, they're going to have to let walk away because they're just not going to have the room to do it.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.